for business when it comes to the majority of their roster on the trade market. That's according to Jake L. Fischer. And Ayo Dosunmu starting to shake off his slow start to the season. And finally, could the Chicago Bulls get a win in their final NBA Cup game, at least in group play? We're going to talk about that all and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. And you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. Let's jump into it today, man. We got trade rumors galore for the Chicago Bulls. We had something come out a little bit ago that the Lakers are interested in Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic. But then we also got something today from Jake L. Fischer. He was on the Stein line where he said this. No surprise, then, that the Bulls executives, according to league sources, have been messaging to rival front offices that they are willing to discuss the majority of their roster in trade talks leading up to the February 6th trade deadline. Most notably, sources say that the Bulls have expressed a desire to move LaVine, Vucevic, and Lonzo Ball, who collectively command nearly $85 million in salary this season. And so I believe something, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there tends to be a lot of smoke, you may need to pay a little bit of attention to things, right? Coming into this season, most Bulls fans expected the Bulls to shop Zach LaVine. No surprise to anybody there. When you look at the last year, how it's really gone for Zach LaVine, a lot of people expected that. Vooch, considering he's an expiring contract at the end of next season, some people expected maybe there to be a conversation there as well. But the thing that stands up on this, Lonzo Ball, right? Lonzo, who the Bulls have said multiple times, hey, this season is about preserving Lonzo Ball, not just for this season, but because he has goals outside of just this season. He wants to play more than just the 2024-25 season. And I do think that part of the Chicago Bulls and what they're doing for Lonzo could be if a team is interested, right? There have been a lot of talks from a lot of Bulls fans, more so Lonzo Ball stands and stands of that family of, could Lonzo Ball turn into this? Could Lonzo Ball be the starting point guard again eventually? While I have always maintained that if Lonzo were to ever stay with the Chicago Bulls, it's going to have to come on a very team-friendly contract considering how much they paid him to not play very many games over the last few years. But then when you pair in with that as well, like the certainty of they've moved on. The guard position is not the position that necessarily is the biggest one of fault for the Chicago Bulls, right? So it's not a surprise that they're looking to shop any three of these guys. The Bulls, who are right up against that first tax apron, right? They are not into the luxury tax, but they're above the salary cap right up into that point, is that if for them to be able to move $85 million of salary and maybe take back, if they move all $85 million, they're probably looking to take about $50 to $55 million back if they can, which saves them considerably on an actual salary cap that's getting better for them over the course of the year. So business-wise, it makes sense. Then you have to ask yourself, what's the other part of this, though? The majority of this roster, right? Yes, that most notably LaVine, Vooch, and Lonzo Ball. But then when you hear most of their roster, who's the most, right? Who's the other players that are up there? And are the Bulls really prepared to go full fire sale? That's a question that has to be asked here. And if they are willing to move off some more of their pieces, is it Kobe? Is it Ayo Dosunmu, who have reasonable contracts right now? Are the Bulls finally looking to strike while the value is hot? Even though a lot of Bulls fans would not be happy if the Bulls were to move on from Kobe White or Ayo Dosunmu. Some would. Some are calling for it. And, hey, shout out to those voices there. Is it Patrick Williams, their former fourth overall pick that the front office has been very, very in tune with keeping, it seems like, over the last few years? Is it somebody else? Is it just the Torrey Craigs? Is it the Lonzo Balls? Is it the Javon Carter? Is it those type of players? While the Bulls are looking to maybe go younger with the young core that they've already developed here, that they're trying to develop here, in Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, Modest Bucilis, Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry, right? These guys, are they looking to kind of go and have guys on the similar timeline as those guys? Is the majority of the roster, does that include Josh Giddey, who they just acquired in the trade? Or is that a player that they're looking to keep? Right? The use of the word majority here could take a lot of different meanings. And I know whoever you're already inclined to thinking that the Bulls should move is probably who you're going to think is here. But let's think of it in a more holistic way, right? Is it that they're willing to add a piece of Ayo or Kobe if it means facilitating the deal to move on from Zach LaVine? Is it that they're just looking to move on from everybody over the age, basically of 25 from this roster, which would include the guys I mentioned, the Zach LaVines, the Lonzo Ball, the Nikola Vucevic, the Torrey Craigs, the Javon Carters, well, THC just looks like he's over 25. He's actually not. The Chris Duartes of the world, right? Those guys. Are they looking to move on from those guys, which still would count towards basically the majority of the roster when you're really looking at it? What does that mean? And is he actually going to finally be successful in striking where the value is hot? Or are we going to see yet another string of deals made by the Chicago Bulls where we're sitting there wondering, what the hell was that? Right? That's the ways that this can go for the Chicago Bulls team. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's not all one way or another. Great point here from Rob. More than half is majority technically. Yeah, if you're looking from a technical sense, but let's be clear, writers don't talk in that way. Podcasters don't talk in that way, right? JK, if I was a GM, everyone on the trade block except is what you mean there. Modest, unless they're giving multiple firsts, which ain't happening. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not saying one way or another on that. But yeah, if you had to think about players that are probably untouchable, Modest Bucilis is definitely one of them, right? You can make a case for Kobe. You can make a case for Ayo. You can make a case for DT. You can make a case for these guys as they're young, promising guys. But I think the one that most Bulls fans would agree with, if you're labeling anybody on this roster as untouchable right now, it's probably Modest Bucilis, right? That's probably if you just had to pick one. If you just had to pick one. And that's because if you're going in this new direction, if you're moving on from the majority of your roster, you're not doing so in hopes that you're going to all of a sudden build some perennial playoff team. You're doing so in more than likely selling off your valuable pieces so that you can maintain your top 10 pick, right? Easy Cook says, depending on the deal, no one should be untouchable. Listen, I get that in the sense of just depending. Yes, there's a deal that could be made for anyone. But let's be clear here. The Bulls aren't getting any superstars back for this. So yeah, Modest should not he should be untouchable, right? Because you're not moving. You're not getting the type of deal that warrants you moving an 11th overall pick, your highest pick since you drafted P. Will, before you even get a full season look at him. The Bulls aren't getting that level of deal. Giannis ain't walking through that door. Kevin Durant ain't walking through that door. Those players aren't walking through that door. So, no, you're not going to trade Modest Bucilis. You're not going to do that. Nick says Kobe White. A lot of people are going to agree with you on that one. I would lean more towards that as well, as far as that being somebody you don't look to move per se. But, again, one thing I've learned with this front office is you can't take anything for granted. They want a chance at Cooper Flagg. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily it. I think that they want to, and this is the thing, and I'm going to do a better job at this. This draft isn't just about Cooper Flagg. He's the jewel of the draft, but do not think that it's Cooper Flagg or bust. Honestly, Cooper Flagg at 17 years old right now, he doesn't turn 18 for another month. Cooper Flagg is probably going to turn out to be the best player in the draft. Cool, whatever. But you can get franchise-altering talent in this draft. I'm telling you, and mark my words, down to about 15 or 18 in this draft. It depends on how you develop them. It depends on the position that you put them in, but you can get that in this draft. You can get that in this draft. So this is an important draft to be able to keep that. You never know. Modest may not be a superstar. It's too risky to move a rookie, especially one like Modest that has dog and he reps the hometown. Everyone else can go. Feel where you're coming from on that one. Completely feel where you're coming from on that one. You never know, right? And the Bulls have been on the other side, the wrong side of, and not necessarily. I'm somebody who says there are only like 5 superstars in the league. Your chance of somebody turning into a superstar is slim to none. But stars, right? You never know. And not even to say that, but the Bulls have been on the wrong side of players going from looking like crap on the Bulls team to being really damn good players. And I tell you what, even before you hit on the star or superstar, you need some pretty damn good players on your roster to build around. And so we'll see what the future holds for the Bulls. It's going to be a really interesting trade deadline to watch. It was always going to be one, but as the news keeps growing, it's going to be even more interesting to watch. But all right, y'all, we are next up going to get into a message from one of our sponsors. That first one, it's Skylight. Struggling to find the perfect gift this holiday season? Whether you're buying for someone who has everything or just looking to stay connected with loved ones far away, I've got the answer. Skylight Frame is the ultimate touchscreen digital photo frame that everyone in your family will adore. Setup is a breeze. It takes less than 60 seconds. You can invite friends and family to share photos instantly through the free Skylight mobile app or email. And it's so easy to upload new pictures straight from your phone, no matter where you are. Imagine sending a new family photo to grandparents across the country and they see it seconds later. It's like you're right there with them. The Skylight Frame also looks stunning in your home with HD resolution and 5 different frame styles to fit any decor, so you can even preload it with special photos as a surprise perfect gift. Listen, if you guys have a mother like mine who has everything in the world, right? Getting something interesting like a Skylight Frame to where everybody in the family, whether she has grandkids, how many kids she has, whatever else it is, to be able to upload photos and special moments right away. You never have to update it. It's like having a permanently changing, a always changing photo there and centerpiece that highlights the family as a whole. That's what Skylight Frames do. And now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, you get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NBA. That's skylightframe.com/NBA. Don't wait. Get $20 off today at skylightframe.NBA. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, Bulls fans, man, we always want to thank you guys for tuning in to an episode of Locked On Bulls, especially after the holiday hangover, right? Like, I don't mean a literal hangover as far as alcohol, but if you guys are like me, it's always a little bit harder to get up that next day after a holiday, especially when you've been eating good, you've been kicking it, maybe you've been drinking whatever it is, and really get going, much less get up in the middle of your day, hang out with me here over on Locked On Bulls. I really appreciate you guys for that, man. But let's get into the next topic that I want to talk about today with these Bulls, man, and that is Ayo Dosunmu. I've talked a lot about Ayo's slump, right, and how he started off the season shooting pretty slow, things like that. But when you look at it, over the last week of this season, Ayo Dosunmu was averaging 15.3 points per game. He's shooting 64% from the field in the last 4 games, and he's also played some really good defense over this time as well. Ayo Dosunmu was finishing around the rim again. He's 57 of 92 from the field, over the last few games. He's really playing really good right now. And you need Ayo Dosunmu in a game against Boston like you're playing today. And so it's good when you see an Ayo who's really waking up for the Chicago Bulls. And yes, right now he's even playing out of position at power forward. So the fact that he's doing this again, while his role has changed yet again, I've talked about it before leading into the season. Ayo Dosunmu is the potential glue guy for this basketball team this season. For the team. It just is what it is. Now, is he going to be that? Is he going to maintain that? We'll see. But when you look at it, Ayo Dosunmu scored in double-digit figures in 3 out of the last 4 games. The only one he didn't was against Memphis, where he only scored 8 points. But again, he played some really good defense in that time. He's also gotten his 3-point shooting up over the last week, over 40%, which is really good considering he's still shooting like sub 30% from the field so far. From the 3-point line so far this season. And then overall in the month of November, he's shooting the ball 50% from the field, 33% from 3-point range. He's averaging 13.5 points per game, 4 rebounds, 3.5 assists, right under a steal per game, almost basically steal per game. Ayo Dosunmu is back to being that player that we need him to be, that glue guy for the Chicago Bulls. And I've talked about multiple times, if you guys haven't been here, how Ayo really right now, if you're talking about making any potential change to the starting lineup, it will only be bringing Ayo Dosunmu into the starting lineup for the Bulls. And I know he's another guard, but whether it means sitting Kobe, whether it means sitting Josh Giddey, right now, he's the key guy when it comes down to that, of making that work. For example, if you just flip Josh Giddey and Josh Giddey and Ayo Dosunmu in that starting lineup to where you're starting Kobe, Ayo, Zach, P. Will, Nikola Vucevic. That's our second most played lineup on the season so far. And they have a positive plus minus of plus 3.3. They're also averaging 118 points per 100 possessions while only giving up 114 points per 100 possessions. That's a really good differential, especially when you look at the fact that the Bulls have almost a negative 6-point differential overall in the season. But in the interest of fairness as well, when you have Josh Giddey and Ayo as your backcourt and have Kobe on the bench, that lineup has plus 4.9 points per 100 possessions. I'm sorry, plus 4.9 differential. They have 120 points per 100 possessions, and they're only giving up 115 points per 100 possessions. And that's with the majority of that time, Ayo Dosunmu technically being in his slump. If Ayo wakes up for this team and is more consistent on both sides of the ball, he makes a huge difference in the way that the Bulls and where the Bulls have success at on that basketball court. I'm not saying that Ayo Dosunmu is the most important player or anything like that, but I am saying this is that he plays a huge important role in the Bulls actually being a formidable team. He just does. And so if you want this team to get better, it comes via your players that are in slumps playing better. And Ayo Dosunmu has been that. At times last year, when Kobe White had his inconsistencies, when he had his slumps, Ayo Dosunmu was playing really good basketball, so it kept the impact from being as huge as what it is before. Ayo can do that now for Josh Giddey and for Kobe White, meaning in games where Josh Giddey just doesn't have anything defensively and he's getting cooked and targeted, you can bring in Ayo Dosunmu and he can give you the defense that you're missing. If Kobe doesn't have it on offensively, as long as Ayo Dosunmu is shooting the ball like he can and attacking like he can, it opens the floor up. You know what Ayo Dosunmu is also? He's still one of our best passers in transition that we have here on this Bulls team. Last year, he was the best. Now with Lonzo and Josh Giddey, he's no longer the best, but he is still one of the best in transition passers. And when you look at getting players like Julian Phillips, Manas Busilis out in the open court, Ayo can definitely help with that as well. Ayo Dosunmu has such an opportunity to be a glue guy for this Bulls team this season that I, for one, am happy that he's starting to come out of this slump. Because an Ayo Dosunmu that comes out of the slump is just an important piece for making this all work for the Chicago Bulls. He's an important cog in this machine for it to work. And if you want the Bulls to have the best chances of winning basketball games, he's that guy. Right now, it's not just him. I'm not putting it all on him. We need to see better from Jalen Smith. When Lonzo's playing, we know what we can get from Lonzo Ball. We need Dalen Terry to bring the energy as well as the rebounding and those type of things. But Ayo coming out of this slump is potentially huge for the Bulls. And I hope that that first basically month of the season was him just acclimating, right? And now that he can kind of finish the season, well, go into the rest of the season and be a stronger player on both sides of the ball, because you need that from Ayo. And then much less if the Bulls do what we talked about in the first segment and make some big moves, you're going to need Ayo Dosunmu even more when it comes down to it, right? And so we'll see what happens with that one. Winton, my brother Winton in the building. Wait, why did it refresh on me? Winton, Ayo is the most important Bulls player defensively. That's big words there. Big words there. Ayo and Kobe White are on great contracts. With how the CBA is, that alone may be reason to keep them. If we won't get any aprons, then we need the cap flexibility. We need to be cap flexible, so maybe we should keep them. Well, keep in mind, Easy Cooks, is that the cap flexibility is over with at the end of next season, because they're both up for contracts at the end of next season, which if they keep having years more like what they did last year, they're about to get paid. So that may be why the Bulls look to move on from them now, because they do have the cap flexibility, and thus a team may be willing to give up more, maybe unprotect that first round pick because they're on reasonable contracts and don't really have to match it. Again, I'm just saying if. I'm not saying that's what I want to see the Bulls do. Don't kill me. But yeah, that's something you got to look at with that as well. But overall, I just hope that Ayo continues to transcend. And if Ayo that's in rhythm, it plays such an important part for this Bulls team. Divine, transition defense is better when Ayo, Zoe, and JP is on the floor. Oh, that's a fact. That's a fact. That's 100% fact. And Dalen Terry, for that matter. I actually think the lineup with those four guys in it, and I can't remember who's the center in that case, is one of our best defensive lineups that the Bulls have had so far this season. So really good call out there. The question, though, is you got to keep those guys healthy, right? Zoe is going to be Zoe. We know he's not going to play back-to-backs. He's going to have some schedule arrests in there. But Julian Phillips, Dalen Terry, Ayo Dosunmu. These guys are so important for not only transition defense, but creating opportunities via steals to get your offense out in transition and to score some easy buckets on the other side as well. They're really important to those aspects of the game for the Bulls, and let's hope that that continues for this team. But I'll tell you one thing that's going to continue. Locked on Bulls is going to continue, where we're going to be talking about the Bulls' final NBA Cup game against the Boston Celtics. But first, we got to get into a message from FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I can't stress enough how much of a leg up that FanDuel is giving you with being able to get all the information that you need to place an informed bet on the same exact page where you place your bets. You don't have to go over to Pro Football Focus. You don't have to go over to ESPN.com. You don't have to go over to Real GM. You don't have to go over to anywhere to get the information to make your informed bets. You get all that right at your fingertips, all on the FanDuel website. Just visit FanDuel.com today to join. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's if you win. You still got to make a good bet, but if you do that, FanDuel got $150 for you in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We're Locked on Bulls coming up next. All right, Bulls fans. I was playing both songs at the same time. That probably had to sound bad. I apologize for that. Nonetheless, with that said, man, the Bulls have their final NBA Cup game today, at least in group play. This is a really important game for the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls Group C right now, is in I think a 3-team tie out of the 4 teams in it. It may be a 4-team tie when it's in that. And the Bulls hold a plus 15-point differential right now in their group. It's really important for the Bulls. Yeah, it's a 3-team tie. The Bulls, the Hawks, and the Celtics right now are all at 2-1 in this one. And the Bulls have a plus 15-point differential, which actually means that they're in the lead of their group. So with a win over the Boston Celtics today, the Chicago Bulls can actually win their group in the NBA Cup and move on to the knockout rounds. That's major. That's huge. And so will the Bulls be able to do it? That's the question that we have to have here with this team. What do they need to do? I tell you what, they need to be on their P's and Q's. Execution has to be at the forefront of the Bulls' mind today when they take on the Boston Celtics. If they don't execute, they're going to get cooked. This is a team where the margin of error is razor thin. It's thin, the margin of error for the Bulls to be able to win this game. The Celtics are one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league. They take the most. They take over 50 three-pointers per game and hit them at a 37% clip. That's a barrage there. And while the Bulls also take a lot of threes and they actually hit them at a pretty decent rate, the Boston Celtics also have a zone that they can go into defensively that the Bulls have just not shown an ability to do consistently. So the Bulls have to be on every single P and Q in this game. If they're not, guess what will happen? Cooked. That's what's going to happen. Cooked. Demolished. Ugly. This game has the chance to get completely out of hand in the first quarter by the Chicago Bulls if they come in here lackadaisical. And even if they do come in with the perfect game plan, skill still matters. And unfortunately, the Boston Celtics have so much more skill at key positions than what the Chicago Bulls have. So it means that a wake-up call is needed. The Bulls are going to need some luck. They're going to need some prayer. They're going to need for Benny the Bull to turn into Jesus Levante Christ himself. But I tell you what, anything can happen. Now, Kobe White, Jalen Smith, they were both listed as questionable for this game. They did practice and shoot around today, so maybe that's the thing that goes well for this team. By the way, the Bulls moved their practices now back to the United Center. This is the first time that this has ever happened as far as a permanent change. Shout out to the Bulls for working in their gym. Maybe that'll give them a little bit of help there. But the Bulls have to be prepared today. They have to. And if they aren't, it's going to be barbecue chicken. It's going to be barbecue chicken. It's going to be another game where we're looking at this Bulls team like, huh? What's the sound that Tim Allen used to make on Home Improvement? Like, I can't do it. But yeah, that's what it's going to look like for the Bulls if they aren't prepared in this game. They got to be prepared. And so let's hope that the Bulls can get some cooking today. Let's hope that we can get some NBA Cup magic today. And I tell you what, for a season that the Bulls don't have a lot of hope to be a playoff run team, they don't have a lot of hope to do. I tell you what, if the Bulls were to move to the elimination round in the NBA Cup, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be excited because we don't have a lot of things to be excited for this season. Let's hope that that's the case. We'll see what it means. And thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following us at Locked On Bulls. If you want to follow me personally, you can do so at CEO Haize. Make sure you check us out. Well, we are free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire. Basically, if you want to see your boy's face, you can do so on so many places because Locked On got you covered. Everywhere you could possibly think about getting a podcast, we're there. So make sure you guys stay in tune with us there. Love you guys. Go Bulls. Let's get this dub tonight. See red, y'all. Peace.